Back with my girl Loops to show you the continuation of the lateral cervical flexion exercise. Previously, I taught you how to do this exercise on the ground with my horse Phantom. Then we moved on to under saddle with Loops, just at a standstill, raking the rein to the left, back to center, and to the right. Now we're going to look into this exercise with movement. So now I'm going to ask Loops to move forward, and I'm going to ask her to follow her nose and change direction. This exercise is a fantastic way, again, to keep your hands very honest. It's so easy to get caught in that trap of leaning on your own horse, who's leaning on your hands, and you get stuck in that trap of leaning and leaning. So we're going to help make that a little bit better for everyone, and Loops and I are going to demonstrate how movement and contact can start to transform into nice lateral cervical flexion. So stay tuned, I'm going to hop on and we'll show you how to get this started. So here we are, and I'm going to climb aboard Loops. And I do say climb because she is 17 hands at this point in time. And I always say to all of my students that it's very important that you learn to mount from the ground in case you're ever in a situation where you need to mount from the ground on trail or in another place. I'm always very polite to Loops, however, and I do always use a mounting block when I can, so that I teach everyone else not to pull on the withers, pull on the saddle, or pull on the back when mounting. So we'll address that in another video tutorial. But what we're going to talk about this evening is, in fact, getting the walk and raking so we can attain our lateral cervical flexion. So once again, we're going to reiterate the exercise by asking Loops to lightly bend to the left voluntarily, coming back to center. We're going to rake to the right. She's going to voluntarily give us that bend to the right. One of the things that you'll notice with Loops is when she bends to the left, when I go ahead and I let go of that pressure, once the horse gets better at this exercise, and you can see she tends to leave her head by herself to the right once my hands are back to center, but you can see to the left, this tends to be her more stiff side because she comes right back to center. So she doesn't really necessarily keep her head to the left. She's pretty much the same under saddle as well. So every exercise that I work on with Loops is usually asking for more bend to the left because that tends to be her stiff, straight side. So once I'm going through this exercise and I'm asking my horse to walk forward by using both legs to ask her to walk, and once Loops begins to walk forward, I'm then going to go ahead and I'm going to start using the range in order to ask her to rake to the left and back to center and to the right. Now my goal with this exercise is indeed to get her to bend 4 inches to the left, back to center, and then again to the right. One of the things I always tell my students as I'm going through this exercise is to pretend like you have a paintbrush in the nostril on the side that you're asking for the flexion with. So in this case, let's stay on the right side, and I'm going to pretend like Loops has a paintbrush in her right nostril and also a paintbrush on her right front foot. And what I want between those two paintbrushes is I want Loops to essentially paint the same line. So I don't want Loops to start bending too much to the inside, such as if I were to pull and I would ask her to bend more laterally, where this part of her head would paint one line and her right front foot would paint another. So that would be painting 2 separate lines. Too much lateral flexion. So what I'm looking at for this stage of the game is I want to make sure that we only bend 4 inches to the side and that her foot starts to follow her bend. So see, she's essentially stepping out in the direction of where her foot just went. Or where her nostril just went, I should say. So both parts are pretty much heading in the same direction. Now it's important when you're asking for any of these exercises or when you're doing the beginning stage basic exercises, and I call these basic not because they're simple or easy or need to be overlooked, but basically when you do these sorts of exercises, these are always the ones that you want to come back to. They need to be revisited. As your horse learns more and as their education grows, they tend to become more athletic. They tend to have more signals, more cues, more ways of doing things, and they sometimes often forget how to do their basic principle exercises. So I often revisit things like this a lot in my training, and it doesn't necessarily have to be as long as you first performed it. So maybe I might work on this exercise initially when I first teach my horses for quite some time, and then as time goes on, I might only warm my horses up with this maybe for 2 or 3 minutes. And if they're performing this exercise well, and if they're bending and following their nostril, and I feel equal bend through the right side of their body and the left side of their body, then I'll just go ahead and move on to something else. Oftentimes for me too, I might go back to an exercise like this, like I said before, to keep my hands honest. It's so easy to get stuck in the trap as a trainer, as a rider, as any person that's human. When you pick up on pressure, you tend to be a little bit heavier than what you should be. And what I try to tell my students often, and what I try to remind them of is, as you teach your horse, it's very essential that you start to ride what you train. In other words, your horse is going to get better. Expect they're going to get better. Expect they're going to get lighter. Expect they're going to step further, softer, faster, with more distance. If you don't change with them and start to lighten in the way that you ask, or reward them by releasing a quarter of a second sooner, they're not going to get any better. So we need to raise our expectations as we begin to train our horses so that we teach them to be better. So always expect more on less. I think that's probably one of the best tips I can give you. As time marches on and you progress in your training, don't forget about the small steps that got you there, because those small steps often have to be repeated. And what's so nice about this exercise is I'll do this back and forth just like this, and I call this making bubbles, because essentially I'm really just enclosing small circles. And once I enclose one, I move on to the next. And I'm trying to keep the engine running. I'm trying to keep loops walking forward and essentially just moving along. Nice and simple and easy. Making it very, very fluid. No hiccups in our steps. And I don't know if you guys can see the beautiful butterfly that's floating around us. So as we're bending and breaking back and forth, do remember as well that we're trying to get less and less head tilt. Essentially, we want 0 head tilt, because that's then re-establishing the fact that we have no drag, no pull, no lean in our rein. And that's really what we're looking for when we're working with our horses. So this is the raking exercise at the walk, and essentially you're getting lateral cervical flexion. So I hope you enjoyed this exercise. I will provide the links below of the groundwork that you want to start and the standstill that you're going to ask for the raking with as well. So we'll move on to other exercises and the next steps that are going to follow after you get your lateral cervical flexion, which is your suppling. So I thank everybody for watching this evening. I hope you have a great night. Thank you once again. Be sure to visit my website at tarajonestraining.com, and I'll see you all on the next one. Thanks so much, Lubes.